What is going on, everybody? I am back today to talk about a horror movie that is very queer coded. During Pride Month, I really like to spend my time highlighting movies surrounding the queer community made by queer creators, giving movies like that a shout out so that it gives people an excuse to watch things. And this is a movie that I hadn't even heard of before. I was reading a list of like queer horror films and I saw this one and I thought the idea sounded incredibly fascinating and a lot of people were saying it's incredibly giallo inspired, which is one of my favorite horror genres. And so I was really looking forward to checking this out. And the movie I'm going to be telling you about today is Knife and Heart. Knife and Heart is directed by Yann Gonzalez. In the summer of 1979, gay porn producer Anne sets out to film her most ambitious film yet, but her actors are picked off one by a mysterious killer. So, like I said, this seemed like it was going to be something that was right up my alley, like queer coded, giallo inspired horror movie surrounding the gay porn industry at this very specific period in time. I just thought like it was going to be really visceral and intense and something I really liked. And unfortunately, I didn't enjoy this movie very much. There are things that I really appreciate about it, but I do feel like more than anything, the movie is an incredible slog to get through. And I also really couldn't stand the lead character and most of the characters in this movie. There were some scenes that had personality, but I found it so difficult to connect with the lead character. And then as certain decisions were made as the movie progressed onward, I just was kind of baffled by some of the decisions and relatively confused as to why the director made certain choices. And I'll talk about that a little bit when I break the movie down for you today. So, at the beginning of the film, we are introduced to Anne, who is a gay porn producer in 1979, and she's making all of these really ridiculous, over the top gay porn films with this group and team that she's very close to, including Lois, who was her former girlfriend, that the two of them have been separated for quite some time. And uh, Anne has this incredible idea for her most ambitious project that she's ever made before. And so the beginning of the film is her kind of setting up, getting her team together to create this new movie that she's really passionate to create. Well, simultaneously, a masked killer shows up and starts killing off her actors one by one as the production starts to play out. And the entirety of the film, you trying to figure out who this slasher is, and Anne and her crew trying to complete the creation of this movie simultaneously while the actors are being hunted down. So, like I said, this has a super interesting premise, and it was something that I thought was going to be right up my alley. But I didn't really like this movie all that much. But I do want to start by talking about the positives of the movie because there are a lot of positives. For starters, I want to talk about the visual style and aesthetic in this movie. This thing is beautifully shot. There are some truly remarkable scenes in this movie that are very dreamlike and ethereal and also very nightmarish in moments. Some of these scenes where the mass killer is murdering people, like it's interesting how much the director combines like raw sexuality with brutal violence. And that's been a theme in horror movies throughout history. There's a lot of times where violence and sexuality are combined together. And I thought there were some moments in this that it worked very well to create a very visceral emotion for you as a viewer, where it's like seeing someone in a sexual act then be murdered, like in the way that it's framed and how it's shot. I just thought that it made those moments of the film incredibly powerful. And I was just enamored by a lot of the shot selections in this. There's some really dreamy moments where you won't even know it until the scene happens, but you've cut into a moment that the director is filming a certain scene for the movie that she's working on. And I thought those moments were really great. They kind of threw you off as a viewer. And I thought that that was a really solid part of the movie. I did like the look of the killer in this and the mask that they were wearing. It was really interesting. The design of it looked really neat. And obviously his choice of weaponry as like a knife that comes out of a dildo, which I thought was just like really funny and charming and kind of an homage to that era of giallo filmmaking where just like ridiculous items would be used as murder weapons. And I think there were a lot of moments in this, especially when they were playing with the lighting in specific scenes, that really showcase that era of filmmaking made through a modern lens. And that's what I loved so much about the moments I enjoyed in this movie, was when they were emulating that style and doing it in a way that I personally thought was effective. I also think the movie has a very sharp sense of humor. There's a lot of really hilarious moments that I can really appreciate. It's like not afraid to be unabashedly queer, and I think that's one of the things that I like so much about the movie, is like it pulls absolutely no punches in that regard. And that's part of the film that I was so on board for and really appreciate. But that's about where my compliments end. I think the screenplay to this movie is a pretty hot mess, even when it comes to the introduction of who the villain is and when you're learning about the motivations. Like, I can understand how they're trying to tie it into things thematically, but I feel like it's handled so sloppily to where at first it feels like it's going to be very dreamy and that you're going to have to piece it together in your head. And then you just get these long bouts of expositional dialogue that just feel completely contrary to how the director was approaching things early on. And it just becomes a very jumbled mess at about the halfway mark, which makes the film a little bit of a slog to get through. I found myself kind of checking out multiple times throughout the film. And that made it a little bit difficult. And an incorporation of a plot arc with the lead character where she sexually assaults her former girlfriend in this. And like, there's a lot of people who were very like on it and talking about like how awful that was. The character, didn't get any like, due diligence for their actions by the end of the movie. And I have issues with that as well. And I get like, the director could probably come to defend and say like there's toxicity in queer relationships as well as straight relationships, and people can do horrible things. There can be monsters all over. Like, people can be inherently bad when they're overtaken with emotion and do terrible things. And I can understand all of those points, but I do think in this particular instance, it's kind of jarring and it comes out of nowhere. And I don't necessarily think it sticks the landing in a way that like works when you're thinking about this type of queer relationship, or like the toxicity that can come in, or like a person's possessiveness in a relationship, or like demand for a relationship to continue that just possibly can't. Like, I just found the incorporation of the scene to not work. And I'm one of those people. I've watched a lot of movies that have incorporated scenes of sexual assault in movies, and like sometimes it can be used for a reason to sit with a viewer and resonate with a viewer. But in this particular circumstance, I just found the incorporation of it. I just didn't understand why. I didn't feel like it added all that much to the movie. And then on top of that, the lead character is just so incredibly unlikable, and it's just very difficult to put yourself in her shoes and care all that much about when she's in peril, which made it even more difficult to watch. And then when that scene happens, you like her even less. And so it's just one of those situations where I feel like, along with not enjoying the lead character, there's so many scenes that just don't really go anywhere. And I was mostly bored through the movie. Even when they confronted the killer at the end, I just didn't find it to be all that satisfying. And I don't know, there are a ton of better movies in the same genre that I think are executed way better than this. So, have you seen Knife+Heart? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Leave me a comment down below and let me know what you thought. I was not a fan of this movie. I didn't really enjoy it at all, and I probably wouldn't recommend it even with the great cinematography. As always, if you can like the video and subscribe to the channel, helps me out a lot and lets me know the type of content you're looking for. I'm always putting out new material, and I look forward to getting more out for you in the near future. And as always, everyone, thank you so much for watching, and have a great rest of your day.